Hello, hello. We are live. Happy Thursday or whatever day you are watching this. I'm Claire Wasserman, founder and author of Ladies Get Paid. If you don't know us, well, now you do. We are an educational platform, global community, and book all about helping women earn more and live better. And as part of that, I ask some of my favorite women slash coaches to come on. They share our mission. They want to see you succeed in life, work, and money, and they're approaching it in all different ways. So if you've been following along on our LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook pages, you have seen just such a breadth and scope of diverse wisdom. And today I am super jazzed to have Daniella Henry here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what she does. Of course, she's the expert on her, so she'll go into more detail. But before I do that, just so you know, the conversation is really going to be about minimizing burnout and maximizing the time that you have off. I don't know if that means, just laying down on the couch watching Bravo and eating. That's me. Or if there's other things we could do that maybe are more regenerative breaks rather than, I always call them regenerative or restorative breaks. But Daniella has some really good stuff to share in regards to getting specifics with really like making the comeback, right, from that time off. So Daniella, as the founder of Duende Coaching, what she does is she focuses on intuitive, soul-centered, co-creative coaching. I love the way you describe that. She works with folks looking to maximize their free time so they can pour more energy into their passion projects. She helps clients figure out something they love to do and actually hold themselves accountable to keep it going with strategic plans, to-do lists, next steps, and all the other stuff life coaches aren't supposed to do. Okay, we have to start there. Danielle, tell me, what are coaches not supposed to do and why do you do it?
Yes, we can start there. Thank you so much, Claire, for having me. This is such a great opportunity. I'm so excited to be able to share a little bit about what I do and particularly help folks, so many of us that are dealing with burnout, and pour more of us into the things that we actually want to do. So, that's kind of a nod to, I think a lot of times, especially if we're certified coaches, there are a lot of things that we're told during our training that you're not supposed to do or might not be a good thing to do. And I always remember from my training that, leading clients in a particular way might not be helpful for all of them. But what I've found with a lot of my clients, and I think it has a lot to do with my very type A pragmatic personality, that sometimes to-do lists are good and are helpful to hold folks accountable. So it doesn't work with all clients, but definitely something that is a tool that I find pretty useful with a lot of the clients that I work with. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And by the way, I feel the same way. Every time that I'm giving, quote advice, I always preface it by saying, I know I shouldn't do this. I should really be prompting you with questions that help you get to the answer. But listen, we're all too close to ourselves. Like
Yeah.
that, I believe everybody needs a coach, a therapist, etc. Like we need somebody to help
All
us
of the
see
things.
the forest for the trees and hold us accountable to it. And so it sounds like you're doing it exactly right. I'm curious though, with this topic. So for all the coaches that
Mhm.
come on, I always, keep it abstract and I say, listen, you tell me what you are most excited to talk about. And this
Yeah.
was a subject, right? Minimizing burnout, maximizing time off. So why is this so kind of personally resonant for you? And, let's get into the tangible nitty gritties of what, how we can actually get there.
Yeah, my favorite thing to do, actual action items. So just a little bit of background on myself. Have had a pretty long career in policy, government. I like to say I'm a recovering attorney.
Uh-huh.
And so have been in very high stress jobs, positions, and very much resonate with the idea that even if you love your job, love those positions, burnout is real. And oftentimes, even taking time off or going on vacation, doing those kind of like reset moments, sometimes you're then go right back to the job and you're like, okay, I feel like exactly the same. And it's something, it was something that led me to coaching, is definitely one of the things that led me to coaching. And so, and a lot of, unsurprisingly, a lot of the clients that I work with are also going through this. And so specifically with this topic, wanted to kind of dive deep on the tactics that I've found have helped with my clients. And that, there are about like, I guess 3 buckets of things that I'd like to like focus on, in order to make it like very real for folks on how you can start addressing this stuff now, which is at the core of how I work with clients. I think going into coaching, I didn't want to be one of these people that was like, you need to drop everything and like find yourself and do all the things. I wanted to also help folks that, might not necessarily be able to make that career move or be able to pivot or take a break or take a sabbatical. But I'm a firm believer that we can all do something like today to help ourselves, and to get ourselves to closer to what we want, particularly when you're dealing with women and women of color, which is who my most of my clients tend to be. So
Mhm.
all that to say, yeah, were you going to say something, Claire?
No, keep going. Keep going.
Okay, cool. So that's like a little bit of background on me, a little bit of an overview, and I guess to jump into like the good stuff. So one of the key things that I like to start off telling my clients is that a lot of the feelings that come up when it comes to burnout is this idea of not feeling like you're in control. And so a lot of times like the act of taking back that control can feel really overwhelming because you don't even know like where to start with it. And so I like to approach all things in coaching, but particularly when it comes to clients that are dealing with burnout, with this idea that like it's going to be like a practice. There's no like immediate thing that's going to help you. There could be, and you might reach it, but a lot of times it's just kind of like putting into practice certain behaviors and certain things that can lead you to feeling less burned out and potentially reaching other things. And so one of the tactics that I like to take is this idea that I essentially call perché no, which perché no means why not in Italian. Spent a lot of time in Italy, and it was always my favorite phrase. And so this is the idea of going into like kind of inventorying your day and asking the question why not throughout the day. And I like to, gauge how comfortable my clients are with this because a lot of times I think, especially when you're burnt out and you're stressed out, you tend to minimize the like little things that make you happy throughout the day. um, and we don't even like address them or mention them or tell our friends about them. And so one of the exercises that I do with clients is like, okay, inventory a day, a week in your life and walk me through like what you've done. So like getting up, going to get coffee, going out for a walk, maybe not going, taking a certain route to your job, sitting in a certain place at your job, like all of the things, get really, really specific. Um, and then start asking yourself, like, why am I doing that?
Mhm.
So why did I decide to like have this kind of coffee? Do I even like this kind of coffee? Why did I take this stressful route to work, which means that like by the time I get on the subway, I'm like, I've already had like an anxiety attack. Is there another way? And these things might seem really small, but it just then unlocks something in your brain where you're like, why am I doing these things in a way that might not necessarily serve me? And so it's a great exercise to start not only at unlocking what's not working in your life, but kind of working towards what are the things that would make me happy on a day-to-day basis. So that's one of the things that I love to start my clients off with. And it's been really exciting to see, how this type of approach to life really unlocks huge things, right? Like it goes from, oh, I don't know why I'm like so nervous about taking XYZ class or talking to XYZ person about something that I'm interested in. And that I've seen with clients has turned into like, oh, I always wanted to like write this book and now I'm having like meetings with publishers. So it it starts small, but it can turn into unlocking your ability to start kind of taking ownership of what really matters to you. So,
Yeah, yeah, and seeing how and the compound effect of it,
yeah,
that you don't have to, like, make a huge change to make a big difference in
absolutely.
your life. I'm curious, I always love personal stories, so whether it's your own or from a client, kinda walk us through the beginning of here's the challenge, and then kinda how you got them or got yourself to a better, more intentional place.
Yeah, yeah. So, it's been I feel like I feel very lucky to be able to kind of partner with folks on their journey as it's like the most, as I'm sure it's like the most rewarding thing ever to see folks where they've started and then kind of get to this really exciting place, and to be that person that's like reminding them that like this isn't happening because like you know the universe, I mean, you can believe that, but it's like you are doing a lot of
Mhm.
what is happening in order to result in these things. And so one client that I had, is in the tech space, super stressed out. We can all relate, and has been working on this project that's like really close to their heart around, writing and just a beautiful kind of like art venture that they've been focused on. And I was having real difficulties not only jump starting that project but just getting through their day to day from a job standpoint, and then feeling like because they didn't have time for anything, relationships suffer, all of that stuff. It's all, as you said, compounding in a negative way. And so, over the course of probably been working with them for about 4 months at this point,
Mhm.
it's been incredible to watch not only the boundaries that they've been able to set in their lives, which is another
Mhm.
aspect, a huge aspect of the work that I do with clients, but finding ways to feel really comfortable with how they tell folks, no, I can't do that, or listen, I'm working on this, so I need to like create time for that. But then also being putting themselves out there, because one of the other things that I work with clients on is this idea of confidence being a muscle, right? Like confidence is not something that we're born with. It's something that we can very quickly lose. As someone who went through law school, I feel like, all the
Mhm.
confidence that I built up went away in a second with the moot court, like destroyed me. But you survive, you get through. But I work with clients a lot on this idea of like, even if you lose your confidence, it is a muscle and you can do exercises to build it
Yeah.
back up. And so with this particular client, getting them to the point where they felt really confident about the work that they were doing for this art venture, that then led to them talking more about it and putting
Mhm.
themselves out there more, and being able to connect with the right people that are also doing similar work, and potential folks that can publish and do all of that stuff. And so it's been really exciting to watch. And also the other interesting component, which is another part of my practice, I think it goes back to this idea that I tend to be, realistic about things. And so I don't always agree with this idea of, you know, feeling like you have to kind of like completely like throw yourself out there, like jump in with both feet, um,
Mhm.
and do something. This idea of like create, like thinking through a safety net of
Mhm.
what you need for yourself in order to take that first step, is another aspect that's been really exciting to watch with this particular client and with a lot of my clients, where it's like they get really honest with themselves about like, okay, if I'm gonna like talk to this person or do this, presentation of my work, what are the little things that I need in order to like take that step? And it can be as small as like, I don't really feel comfortable doing it in person. Like maybe I can do it as like a Zoom, or it'd be really great if like a specific friend could be there with me in the room. Like that'll calm me down. Like that, I love to get like that specific with clients, and I encourage them to like, you don't have to do this. I feel like our culture is continuously being like, you just got to get out there and like do the thing, and it's like, yes, but do it in a way that feels comfortable for you, at least
Yeah.
as you take that first step. Because what I've learned with clients is that it's more likely that you'll take that second step if
Yeah.
the first step is not as scary,
Right.
So,
Right. Totally. Yeah. It's this interesting balance of going outside your comfort zone, but also not becoming a different person.
yeah,
So it has to still be like within who you are,
totally.
but just like stretched a little bit. There were a couple of really good things that you said that I want to circle back on: setting boundaries, building back confidence, and then thinking through the safety net. So,
Mhm.
which ones of those do you want to tackle first with some tangible tips?
Ooh, yes. Uh, ooh, the setting boundaries. So that is something, not to plug my workshop, but I
Oh,
do like a
please
whole
do. Ladies
work.
and
I
gentlemen.
do, I do
Yeah.
like a whole workshop on boundaries, or mostly focused on boundaries. And there's like a workbook exercise that we don't even finish during the session because it's like this is like take home work, because it's really, so I'll talk a little bit about what that exercise looks like, but essentially, what I love to do with clients when you're thinking about a boundary that you're trying to set, in your life, and just thinking through like recent client examples, there was there one of my clients was, basically, she's someone who doesn't really like to be hang out with folks in person. Hey, we're in post COVID, right?
Mhm.
And so a lot of how she communicates with folks, especially in her personal life, is like through text. And she was really focused on a specific, personal project that she wanted to work on, and just didn't know how to set boundaries with like family members to be like, hey, I am working on this. I like don't want to be rude, but like,
Mhm.
I don't have time to talk to you. And like, I don't. And she, there was a lot of guilt, like, with a lot of things when it comes to boundaries, there's that guilt. And so, kind of to my original point with the safety net, what I like to do is kind of get into the layers of what is really bothering you about setting that boundary. And so I invite folks, like I do with my clients, to kind of, take something that you really want to do, right? That you would love to start incorporating into your life, and then start thinking about all of the red flags as to why you don't want to do it,
Mhm.
or feel like you can't do it, and write them down. And then start kind of going like one layer deeper and being like, okay, well, I'd love to take this class, and but I, have, my commute is kind of crazy. I'd have to like leave work a little bit early. Okay, so like, what happens if you do leave work early? What are the things that make you nervous about that? Well, my boss might not, might be upset. I might like miss a meeting. I might do XYZ. Okay, well, you might not be able to like leave work, but like, what is a scenario that you could create where you could kind of like talk to your boss? And I'm not saying like this always works, but it's the exercise of like getting into the specifics of like what's making you uncomfortable, and then figuring out to what like level can you would do you feel comfortable going to kind of like push the boundaries of um what can happen for you. So that's like a whole exercise.
Right.
that I do. And then in terms of the safety net, that's a really easy one. I mean, I think, it can be hard if you are are having difficulties being honest with yourself. But I think, I love to get folks excited about the safety net idea by kind of allowing them to dream of like, if you had all the time in the world or like all the abilities to do something, pick what you would love to do, tomorrow, and then think about what you would need in order to um, make that happen or feel comfortable making that happen. Um, and then what we do in sessions is like, okay, well, now that you know that you need, a friend to go with you to that dance class, or you kind of want to be in a more, I had a client that really wanted to explore more movement in their lives, and they felt really uncomfortable going to a class in person. So it was like, okay, well, what kind of research can we do to figure out like um, sessions that are more body inclusive, right?
Yeah.
Or, that let's break down like what makes you uncomfortable. She realized that it was like mirrors made her uncomfortable. Okay,
Mhm.
well, let's find a class that doesn't provide mirrors. Like,
Yeah.
so those are the kinds of kind of like deep and being like really honest with yourself that allows you to create a safety net that'll work and then will help you to continue exploring whatever that passion or interest is. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you have a response to this, but because I brought it up in my intro, I'm going to just circle back to it, which is, I think about breaks, like
Yeah.
there's different kinds of breaks, right? They're not all the same. Going for a walk is different than being on my phone, which is different than shutting my eyes, right? So
Mhm.
they all serve a purpose, I think, but
Yeah.
do you have recommendations for how to really get the most out of your break?
Yeah. So I think that what has helped, and what I've found helps um, my clients is when you're really honest with yourself about what the kind of break is that you need, and also doing a lot of trial and error. So going back to this like parquet no exercise that I like to do with clients, I always tell them like it doesn't mean that like the first 10 things that you test out you're going to like, but it's about kind of bouncing back and continuing to try things. And so I think a lot of times what I've noticed with some of my clients that are burnt out and are trying like different ways of finding those breaks, it's because they're continuing to try things that just are not serving them. So like, we don't all have to like meditate. We don't all have to do yoga. We don't all
Right.
have to like go on the retreat.
Mhm.
So I think, a lot of it is having kind of like that curious kind of open mind to being okay with failing and then like trying something else out, which isn't easy. But I think it speaks to the fact that like there's no like silver bullet to like what helps. But I do see that with the clients that I have that um, are consistent about trying different things out and really thinking about like how to take back that control. They're the ones that then, I've seen it even with like a client that I have now. It's like eventually they do get to the point where they're like, oh, I know exactly what I want and what I need. And that like helps them create those boundaries and feel really confident about creating those boundaries. Sometimes that means you're like, yeah, I am going to leave this job. But and
Mhm.
that might be the end of it, or like the beginning of something new. Um, but I think it's about just like continuing to try. Uh,
Yeah. And
yeah,
I think a big part of it is really ultimately getting to know yourself
yeah,
and to take yourself seriously, to take your intuition seriously. Because also how you feel today is going to change potentially tomorrow, So what may work for you now in another season of your life, you might need to shift it. Do you have recommendations for how people can connect more to themselves? I mean, that's obviously where a coach is extremely helpful because, we bring the perspective,
Yeah.
but any like tips on connecting with intuition at all?
Yeah. So I think, yes, coach, getting a coach is great. I also think like trying things out, as I was saying before, but another, I guess, like a part two to that, like testing things out and being honest with yourself about how you like react to those things, whether you like them or don't like them. Um, it's also about been thinking a lot about this idea where we are as a society are like continuously telling people that they just need to like be in this one box, and what I'm seeing with the clients that I've been working with for a little bit for longer,
Mhm.
they're starting to get really comfortable with doing things simultaneously and also learning that like just because I'm like songwriting, but I'm supposed to be working on this novel, like it's actually helping to unlock
Yes.
creativity.
Yeah.
And so being like open to that, that like it's not distractions, it's all kind of like feeding into each other. Um, it's very tangible to me with the clients that I've been working with. And so I wish that folks would feel just like more comfortable with that.
Yeah, that's totally the case. I got more motivated to do Ladies Get Paid when I started to work on a completely separate side project that
Yeah.
exercised a piece of my brain that I was not using, just like pure imagination. I was writing a screenplay, and it was something also that relieved pressure, right? Like it wasn't this thing has to be monetized. It's like, oh gosh, I could actually just enjoy myself. And
Yeah.
also it like sparked the dialogue of what is productivity, right? Like if something's
Mhm.
for pure enjoyment, do I feel guilty about that? The answer is yes. Although it's funny because now I like learned how to just sort of see enjoyment for enjoyment's sake, but then I'm also recognizing that I'm kind of proud that like the enjoyment ends up helping me be better at my job. Therefore, it is still productive enjoyment. So I get that. In the final minutes we have, I would love
Yeah.
for you to just talk about kind of fundamental elements of really being your own biggest champion and work money in life. I mean, I know you've talked about it in, other ways, but that was a question I always ask coaches when they sign up for this. I'm going to read you back what you said, and
Okay.
then if you want to elaborate on it or take it in a
Yeah.
different direction. You said in terms of becoming your own biggest champion, really confidence building and creating a strong safety net for yourself. And then also, you don't have to take risks blindly. Be honest with yourself about what you need to take that first step. I know you've covered kind of both of those things, but do you want to go in any deeper or,
Yeah.
floor is yours?
Yeah, no, I think just stressing, the boundaries, component, and just not feeling the guilt around that, which I know is like easier said than done, but really finding ways to create the boundaries that you need in order to have the life that you want, and understand that like everyone should be doing that. And maybe you're just learning to do it now. So I think, yeah, I would just add like the boundaries piece to that. And also, yeah, I think, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I think outside of the stuff that I said before, that's the only thing that I would add.
Okay. And in the final minute or so, is there any other words of wisdom that you'd like to share in regards to the coaching you do? And also, of course, our subject of, minimizing burnout, maximizing your time off.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think my last words of wisdom are probably just echoing what I've said throughout the session that, you can, I know that it can feel like impossible and you don't know where to start, but the reality is that like there are things that you can do immediately, and that it even, in 15-minute increments of feeling like you can take back a little bit of control, it becomes a little that feeling of taking back control and finding ways to do things that are just for you, it very much becomes addictive, and it just becomes like a waterfall or cascade to lead you to bigger and better things. But you don't have to think about that now. You just have to think about that like first step that you want to take. And so, yeah.
Awesome.
And yeah, I think that's it.
Love it. All right. Well, let us know, where can people find you, follow you, most importantly, pay you. Also, for everybody who wants Daniella's links, including the link to your workshop, you're going to be posting that on our LinkedIn page right underneath the recording. But yeah, give a shout out to your own social channels and URLs so people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so you can get in touch with me at Daniella at iamduende.com, which is my website. And my Instagram is at iamduende, so pretty easy. Yeah, and I will be sharing all of my links. And I have a workshop coming up called Build, Balance, Boundaries on September 7th, if anyone wants to join. Yeah.
Fabulous. Love a good alliteration. Thank you, Daniella. Thank you so much to you, to everybody who's watching after the fact. Best of luck. Now go get paid. See you soon.
Thanks, Claire. Bye, everyone.